Matthew Harlan was hammering the last nail into the fence that separated his small plot from the old Willow Creek Ranch when he heard the screams. He paused with the hammer in the air, his forehead sweaty from the afternoon sun in rural Oklahoma. He heard it again, louder this time. A woman's voice, desperate, coming from the dense woods of the neighboring ranch. The Willow Creek Ranch had been abandoned for 3 years, ever since the owners died in a car accident. The couple's daughter had vanished without a trace, and the place had turned into nothing but overgrown brush and silence. Nobody went there. Folks in the nearby town said the property was cursed, that the girl had run off for good, that the ranch would end up subdivided and sold to outsiders. Matthew dropped the hammer and hopped the fence, entering the abandoned property. The screams continued, growing more frantic. He ran along the old trail, dodging dry branches and vines that had taken over everything. His heart pounded hard, not just from the effort of the run, but from the adrenaline of not knowing what he'd find. When he reached the clearing near the old ranch house, he saw her. A woman was caught in old rusted barbed wire, the kind of fence someone had started building decades ago and never finished. The wire cut into her leg in several places, blood trickling down and staining her torn jeans. She tried to free herself, but every movement only worsened the cuts. Her brown hair was full of leaves and dry twigs, her face smudged with dirt and tears. When she saw Matthew approaching, her green eyes widened, a mix of relief and fear. "You live around here?" she asked, her voice choked. "I do. Easy now. I'll get you out of there." Matthew approached slowly, assessing the situation. The wire was tangled around her leg in a complicated way. "Anyone else with you?" She glanced quickly behind her at the dense woods, as if expecting someone to emerge. "No, just me." She took a deep breath, trying to control the trembling. Better that way. Matthew frowned at the odd response but didn't press. He pulled the wire cutters from his belt that he always carried for fence repairs and began snipping the wire carefully, one strand at a time. She bit her lip to keep from crying out each time the metal shifted against her wounded skin. "There." He cut the last piece and held her arm to help her stand. But when she tried to put weight on her foot, she groaned in pain and nearly collapsed. Her ankle was swollen, probably sprained. "I can't walk," she whispered, her voice breaking. Matthew looked around. They were far from everything, the woods closing in, the sun already starting to set. He didn't have a cell phone and doubted there'd be signal out there anyway. The nearest town was almost 3 miles away, and his house was half a mile back. "I'll have to carry you," he said simply. Before she could respond, Matthew scooped her up. She was light, but the path was rough, full of rises and falls, exposed roots and loose dirt. She wrapped her arms around his neck and held on tight, her head awkwardly resting on his shoulder. As he walked, Matthew caught her scent, faintly sweet, mixed with sweat and earth. It was an expensive smell, the kind he only noticed when he drove into the city and past fancy stores. It didn't fit the situation, this injured woman lost in the middle of the woods. "How'd you get into this?" he asked, more to break the heavy silence than out of real curiosity. "I was trying to reach the ranch house. I got lost on the way." She spoke softly, as if embarrassed. "It's been a long time since I've been here. You knew the owners?" She took a moment to respond. "I did. From afar." Matthew didn't push. He kept walking, focused on not tripping and dropping them both. Her breath was warm against his neck, and he tried not to notice how perfectly she fit in his arms. When they finally reached the wooden cabin where Matthew lived, the sun was setting. Daisy, the mutt dog that slept on the porch, lifted her head and growled low but soon settled when she saw her owner. "Easy, Daisy. It's a guest," Matthew said, entering and carefully placing the woman on the old sofa in the living room. The house was small and simple. A living room with a sofa and table, a cramped kitchen with a wood stove, a bedroom in the back. The wooden walls had old photos hanging, the largest showing a man in a hat next to an antique tractor. The hardwood floor was worn by time but clean. Everything there breathed simplicity and care. Matthew went to the kitchen and returned with a basin of water, clean cloths, and a bottle of hydrogen peroxide. He knelt in front of her and began cleaning the wounds on her leg with care. She squeezed her eyes shut and gripped the arm of the sofa tightly but didn't complain. "It's gonna sting a bit," he warned before applying the peroxide. "It's okay." He cleaned each cut, bandaged them with the clean cloths, and improvised a splint on the ankle using wooden slats and rope. It wasn't perfect, but it would hold until she could get real medical help. When he finished, Matthew stood and went back to the kitchen. He returned with a glass of water and a piece of fruit. "Here, you must be hungry." She took the glass with both hands and drank it all at once, as if she hadn't had water in hours. Then she bit into the peach he offered, and Matthew saw she was truly starving from the way she ate. "Thank you," she said when she finished, wiping her mouth with the back of her hand. "Thank you so much. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't shown up." "No problem." Matthew sat in the chair across from the sofa, keeping a respectful distance. "What's your name?" "Hannah." She hesitated just a second before answering. "You can call me Hannah. I'm Matthew. Matthew Harlan. I've lived here over 30 years. This land was my grandfather's. It's a nice house, simple but cozy." He looked around, seeing the place through her eyes. It was simple, all right. Poor, even. But it was his. It was clean. It had history. "You said you were trying to reach the main house at Willow Creek Ranch. Why? That place has been abandoned for years." Hannah looked away, fixing her eyes on the photo of the man in the hat on the wall. "I know. I just wanted to see how it's doing. See if there's anything worth saving." "You knew the owners?" "From afar. Very afar." There was something in her voice that said the answer wasn't complete. Matthew noticed but didn't push. Everyone had their secrets, their reasons for doing things. Her cell phone rang suddenly, the sound loud in the silence. She startled, grabbed the device from the backpack she still had on, and looked at the screen. Matthew caught the name before she quickly silenced it. "Dr. Michael Peterson, attorney." "Just an acquaintance," she said too quickly, putting the phone back. "Nothing important?" Matthew nodded, but the info stuck in his head. "Attorney? Why would an injured woman lost in the woods have a lawyer calling her? You need to get that ankle looked at properly. There's a motel in town. Mrs. Julia takes good care of her guests. I can drive you there first thing tomorrow morning when it's light." Hannah agreed, but she seemed too exhausted to argue. Her eyes started closing on their own, her body finally relaxing after the scare and the pain. "You can sleep here on the sofa. I'll get a blanket." Matthew returned from the bedroom with an old but clean blanket and covered her carefully. Hannah was already nearly asleep, her breathing slowing and deepening. He stepped out to the porch and sat on the wooden step, Daisy coming to lie beside him. The night was clear, full of stars. The kind of night you only saw far from the city. In the distance, he could make out the dark silhouette of the Willow Creek Ranch house, its empty windows like dead eyes in the darkness. Who was this woman really? Why had she come to an abandoned place alone, without telling anyone? And why that strange response when he asked if anyone was with her? "Better that way," she'd said. "Better to be alone." As if she was running from something or someone. Matthew scratched his head and sighed. It wasn't his business. He'd help her get to the motel tomorrow, and that was that. Everyone would go their own way. He had a fence to finish, crops to tend, a simple life to live. But when he went back inside and saw her sleeping on the sofa, her face finally peaceful, something stirred inside him. It had been years since he'd had another human presence in that house. Years since he'd cared for anyone besides himself and Daisy. Before going to bed, Matthew noticed her backpack was slightly open from when she'd grabbed the phone. He could see the edge of a document with a gold letterhead, letters that looked official. Not wanting to snoop, but curiosity getting the better of him, he leaned in just a bit to see better. He could only read, "Estate inventory, Willow Creek Ranch, heiress Hannah." The rest was folded. Matthew pulled back quickly, his heart racing. Hannah, not Hannah the alias, and heiress to Willow Creek Ranch. The daughter of the owners everyone thought had disappeared forever. He went to the bedroom and lay on the bed, but sleep wouldn't come. He stared at the wooden ceiling, listening to her breathing in the living room next door, processing the information. The heiress had returned. The owner of it all had returned, and she was sleeping on his sofa, injured and lost, pretending to be someone else. Why? Matthew didn't know yet, but that question would change everything. Because in just a few days, he'd discover that woman wasn't just the owner of Willow Creek Ranch. She owned much more, including the land where the cabin he thought was his stood. And in that moment, looking at the stars through the bedroom window, Matthew Harlan had no idea he'd just rescued the only woman who could change his life forever. For better or worse, he'd find out. Matthew woke to the rooster crowing and the smell of coffee brewing. He was surprised since he was always the first up. He got out of bed and went to the kitchen, finding Hannah, or rather the real Hannah, standing propped against the table, stirring something on the stove with a wooden spoon. "Morning," she said without turning around. "Found coffee and cornmeal in the cabinet. Hope you don't mind." Matthew stopped in the doorway, watching the scene. She limped noticeably, her ankle still bandaged, but she'd managed to get up and make coffee. She wore the same clothes from the day before, dirty and torn, but she'd tied her hair in a ponytail and washed her face. She looked less lost, more steady. "You didn't have to do that," he said, approaching. "I know, but I wanted to thank you somehow." She turned and offered a steaming mug. "Not as good as the coffee my mom made, but it'll do." Matthew took the mug and sipped. It was strong, just how he liked it. "It's good." They had coffee in silence, sitting on makeshift stools in the small kitchen. Daisy came in, sniffed Hannah suspiciously, and to Matthew's surprise lay at her feet. The dog never did that with strangers. Never. "She likes you," Matthew commented. "That's rare." Hannah smiled for the first time since he'd found her. It was a beautiful smile, lighting up her tired face. "I've always had a way with animals. My dad said I had a good touch." "Your dad from around here?" The smile faded. "He was, but he's gone now." "I'm sorry." Silence again, but it was a different silence. Not uncomfortable, just heavy with unspoken memories. "Let me drive you to Mrs. Julia's motel," Matthew said, finishing his coffee. "You need to get that ankle checked properly." "Wait." Hannah grabbed his arm before he could stand. "I want to ask something first." "What?" "Could you take me to the main house at Willow Creek Ranch? In the daylight, nice and slow. I need to see that place." Matthew hesitated. "Why? It's dangerous. Everything's rotten, full of snakes." "Even so. Please. I came all this way just for that place. I can't leave without seeing it." There was something in her voice, an urgency beyond simple curiosity. Matthew looked into her green eyes and saw truth. He didn't understand the reasons, but he understood the need. "All right, but we'll be careful." They went by pickup truck, her sitting in the passenger seat holding on tight to the door handle, her injured ankle propped carefully. The path to the ranch house was short but full of potholes. Matthew drove slowly, avoiding jolts that might hurt her more. When they parked in front of the dilapidated colonial house, Hannah got out of the truck and stood still, just looking. The old building had been beautiful once. 2 stories, wide verandas, tall windows. But now it was pure neglect. Broken glass, rotted wood, weeds growing up the walls. The front door had fallen, eaten by termites. Matthew saw a tear roll down her face. "It doesn't remind me of what it was at all," she whispered. "You knew this place when it was good?" Hannah wiped her face quickly. "I did. My parents, the owners, were friends of the family. I'd come here sometimes." A lie, Matthew thought. But he said nothing. He kept pretending he believed her. "Want to go inside?" he offered. She nodded, and they walked slowly to the veranda. Matthew tested each board before stepping, holding her arm for support. The door creaked when he pushed it open. Inside was even worse. Furniture covered in mold, ceiling with holes, rats scurrying in the corners. But Hannah looked at everything with an expression mixing sadness and something like love. She walked to the main living room and touched the peeling wall carefully, as if touching something sacred. "There used to be a huge table here," she said softly, "and a crystal chandelier that came from Europe. My mom loved that chandelier. She said when the sun hit it, it made rainbows on the wall." Matthew stayed quiet. She'd forgotten she was pretending, forgotten she shouldn't know those details. "Your mom," he repeated gently. "Not the owners. Your mom." Hannah froze. She turned slowly to look at him, eyes wide. She started but couldn't finish the lie. "Your name isn't Hannah. It's the real Hannah." Matthew spoke without anger, just stating a fact. "I saw your document yesterday by accident. Estate inventory. Heiress Hannah." She went pale. "You read it?" "Not all of it. Didn't want to snoop. But I saw enough." Hannah leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. "I was going to tell you. I swear. I just didn't know how." "Why lie?" She opened her eyes and met his gaze. Because when I tell people who I really am, they change. They get weird, or they want something, or they judge me for abandoning this place. She gestured to the ruined house. I just wanted to be a normal person for a few days. Someone no one expects anything from. Matthew processed that. He understood more than she knew. He himself lived avoiding others' expectations, comparisons to his grandfather who'd owned bigger lands, the quiet pressures of why he hadn't made more of his life. "It's okay," he said finally. "You can keep being Hannah if you want. Doesn't change anything for me, doesn't it? You're still the woman I found caught in barbed wire. You still need help with that ankle. The rest is your business." She looked at him as if he'd said something unbelievable. "Thank you," she whispered. They continued exploring the house in silence. Hannah told stories without realizing it. About the bedroom where she'd slept as a child, the kitchen where her mom made caramel treats, the veranda where her dad played guitar on Saturday nights. Matthew listened to it all, piecing together the puzzle of this woman who'd had everything and run from it all. "Hannah," he said as they were leaving, "can I ask you something?" "Sure. Why'd you come back?" She looked at the ruined ranch, the brush that had taken over everything. "Because I'm tired of running. Tired of pretending this place doesn't exist, that my parents didn't exist, that I have no roots." She turned to him. "I came to decide if I sell it all or stay. And have you decided?" "Not yet. But I'm starting to think it might be worth trying to save what's left. You're gonna need a lot of help. This place is almost gone." "I know. That's why I came alone first, to see if there's anything worth saving." Matthew looked around. The ranch was in ruins, but the main structure still stood. With work, lots of work, it could be salvaged, at least part of it. "What if I help you?" he heard himself say, surprised by his own words. Hannah looked at him, her green eyes shining. "Why would you do that?" "Because neighbor helps neighbor, and because," he hesitated, "I think you're right. It can still be saved." She smiled again, that smile that transformed her whole face. "So we'll try?" "We will." And there, on that rotting veranda on the verge of collapse, the two made a silent pact. He'd help her save the ranch, and maybe in the process, they'd save each other too. But neither knew yet that saving that place would cost much more than work and sweat. It would cost painful truths, impossible choices, and a love neither was prepared to feel. The days that followed created a routine neither expected, but both accepted, without question. Matthew arrived at Willow Creek Ranch early, before the sun got too hot, and found Hannah already waiting with coffee ready and an old thermos she'd found in the house. They worked until noon, when the heat became unbearable, rested in the shade of the ancient oak tree that still stood in the yard, and returned to work in the late afternoon. Hannah had moved to Mrs. Julia's motel, but she spent the whole day at the ranch. Her ankle still hurt, but she insisted on helping. Matthew had to teach her everything from scratch. How to hold a hoe without getting blisters, how to pull weeds by the roots so they wouldn't grow back, where to step to avoid sinking in the soft soil near the creek. "You've never worked the land before, have you?" he commented on the third day, when she nearly fell trying to yank up a stubborn thistle. "Never," she admitted, wiping sweat from her forehead and leaving a streak of dirt on her face. "My dad wouldn't let me. He said girls from good families didn't need to know that stuff. And you? Did you want to know?" Hannah stopped working and looked at her own hands, already starting to callous. "I did, always did. I'd watch the hands working and want to help. But my mom said I had to study, become a doctor, a lawyer, those kinds of things. That farm work was for folks without options." "And did you?" "Become what?" "A doctor, lawyer, those things." Hannah gave a sad smile. "I became a business manager, worked at a bank in Chicago for 3 years. Made good money, wore high heels, lunched at fancy restaurants." She looked at the ruined ranch. "And I was the most unhappy person in the world." "Why?" "Because I wasn't me. I was a version of myself my parents wanted me to be. Or what I thought they wanted." Matthew said nothing. He just kept weeding beside her, respecting the heavy silence that followed her confession. It was Hannah who broke it. "And you? Always wanted to stay here?" "Always. My grandfather tended this land his whole life. My dad left young, tried city life, but came back before he died. Said it was a mistake to leave. That the land calls you back, sooner or later? It does, Hannah agreed softly, looking around. They worked in silence a while longer, until Matthew noticed something. Hannah knew the house better than she should. She knew where each room was without him showing her. Knew there was a lean-to in the back not visible from outside. Knew the pantry door stuck at the bottom and needed a little lift to pull open. And more. When they found an old wooden rocking horse under a pile of rubble, she'd picked up the toy and cried. Not a discreet tear. She'd cried for real, hugging that weathered piece of wood like it was the most precious thing in the world. "My dad made this for me," she'd said between sobs. "I was 5. I'd play with this horse all day." Matthew had stayed quiet, letting her cry. And he'd understood that this woman wasn't just visiting a place from her childhood. She was coming home. On the 5th day of work, while cleaning the main living room, Hannah started singing. Softly at first, then louder. It was an old country tune, the kind only older folks knew. Matthew stopped sweeping to listen. "Nice voice," he said when she finished. "Thanks. My dad sang that every night before I went to sleep." Hannah smiled with teary eyes. "When he died, I swore I'd never sing again. But here, I don't know. It just came out. Sing it again." She did. And this time Matthew joined in, because his grandfather had sung the same song. And there, in that dusty, cluttered living room, with sunlight streaming through the broken windows, the two created something neither could name yet. But it was growing, silent and inevitable, like weeds after rain. It was on the 6th day that the first real touch happened. Not accidental, not out of necessity. By choice. Hannah was on an old ladder, trying to clean a high window. The ladder wobbled. Matthew grabbed it firm, his hands on her waist for balance. "Careful," he said. She climbed down slowly, but when she reached the ground, he didn't let go. And she didn't pull away. They stood there, too close to be casual, too far for what they were both already feeling. "Matthew," she whispered. He stepped back quickly, like he'd been shocked. "Sorry, I didn't. No need to apologize." But the moment had passed. They returned to work, quieter, more aware of each other. That night at the motel, Hannah called Dr. Michael. She needed answers about deadlines, documents, what would happen if she didn't decide soon. The attorney was direct. "Hannah, you have 23 days. After that, your aunt files the suit and you lose the inheritance rights. Everything, not just the ranch, the condos in Chicago, the investments, the money. $50 million, all of it." "I know. So what are you doing there? Come back, sign the papers, we sell it all and you live rich and peaceful." "I don't want to sell." Silence on the other end. Then the attorney's voice, lower. "Hannah, are you in love?" She looked out the motel window toward the ranch a few miles away, toward where Matthew was probably sleeping in that simple house with the dog on the porch. "No," she lied. "I'm just tired of running." "Then come back, face it, sign the papers and use the money to do whatever you want. But don't throw away a fortune for pride. It's not pride, it's roots." She hung up before he could reply. Meanwhile, Matthew was at his house, his old cell phone in hand, staring at the screen. He'd searched her full name, Hannah Ellis Willow, and found news. Lots of news. Heiress vanishes after parents' death. Family disputes $50 million inheritance. Lawyers search for Hannah Willow for 2 years. He read it all. About the accident that killed her parents. About the aunt and cousins who wanted to sell everything. About her who disappeared without a trace. About the fortune at stake. And he read more. About the property. About the boundaries of Willow Creek Ranch. And that's when he saw the old map attached to one of the articles that made his blood run cold. The cabin where he lived was within the ranch boundaries. Technically, legally, that land was hers. His grandfather had never had a deed. It had been a handshake deal with the old owner, her father. A land loan that was never formalized. If she sold the ranch to a developer as the family wanted, he'd lose everything. The house, the land, the only place he called home. And she knew. Of course she knew. That's why she'd come alone first, to assess, to see if he'd be a problem or not. Matthew closed the phone, anger rising in his chest. She'd lied, pretended to be someone else. Let him help her, sang with him, almost something happened between them. And all the while, she knew she'd take everything from him. He didn't sleep that night. He sat on the porch, Daisy at his side, staring into the darkness toward the ranch. Tomorrow he'd confront her. Tomorrow he'd demand the full truth. Tomorrow he'd find out if he'd been a lovesick fool or if she felt the same as he did. But deep down in the part he didn't want to admit, Matthew already knew the answer. A woman like her didn't end up with a man like him. Not for real. Not when 50 million was on the line. And even so, knowing that, he couldn't stop thinking about her. Her smile when the rocking horse turned up in the rubble. Her voice singing in the dusty living room. Her hands on his waist when the ladder wobbled. Matthew Harlan, a simple 32-year-old man who'd never truly loved anyone, was completely, hopelessly in love with the only woman who could destroy his life. Matthew arrived at the ranch the next day as the sun was rising. Hannah was already there as usual with the coffee ready. But this time he didn't accept it. He stood in front of her, arms crossed, jaw set. "We need to talk," he said, his voice harder than intended. Hannah sensed right away something was wrong. She set the thermos down slowly. "About what?" "About you owning all this. About my house being on your property. About you coming here to size me up before kicking me off the land I live on." Her face went white. "How did you—" She started, but her voice failed. "I searched, read the news, saw the map." Matthew took a step toward her. 50 million, Hannah. 50 million you'll get if you sell it all. And me in the middle, living in a house that's not mine, on land that's yours. Matthew, it's not like that, isn't it? Then explain how it is. He was yelling now, all the anger from the sleepless night pouring out at once. Explain why you lied about who you are. Why you pretended you just wanted to visit. Why you let me help you, let me— He stopped, swallowing the words he wanted to say but couldn't. Let you what? Hannah took a step toward him, eyes welling but voice steady. Nothing. Forget it. I'm not forgetting. Say it. Let you what? Let you make me believe you were real. Matthew exploded. That you were a normal person, here because you wanted to be, not calculating how much you'd make selling everything. You let me believe that maybe, that we what, Matthew? Say it. That maybe you felt the same as I do. The words came out before he could stop them. That maybe this thing growing here wasn't just in my head. Silence. A silence so heavy it seemed to suck the air around them. Hannah took 2 steps back, tears finally falling. You think I'm faking? She whispered. Think these days were all a lie? That I sang with you, worked beside you, told you about my parents, all lies just to trick you? I don't know. You've lied about who you are. Why not lie about the rest? She put a hand to her chest like she'd been slapped. I lied about my name because I was scared. Scared you'd treat me different. Scared I'd become just another spoiled rich girl everyone wants something from. She wiped the tears angrily. And I was right. Look at you now. Look how you're looking at me. How should I look at you? Like someone who's going to take everything from me. I'm not taking anything from you, Hannah shouted, her voice echoing through the empty ranch. You think I came here for what? To appraise your little cabin, to calculate profit? Then why'd you come? She was crying openly now, her whole body shaking. Because I can't stand being just a name anymore, just a signature on papers. Just an heiress everyone wants to control. She pointed to the ruined house. My parents died here, Matthew. Died coming back from here. And I ran because I couldn't face it. Because every time I thought of this place, all I saw was them dead in that car. Matthew felt the anger start to mix with something else. Something like remorse. Hannah continued, the words tumbling out in a torrent she couldn't control anymore. 3 years. 3 years I lived in Chicago pretending this place didn't exist, pretending my parents hadn't died, that I had no roots. She turned to look at the house. And when the attorney called saying I had 23 days to decide, that my aunt would take everything, that I'd lose the last thing left of them, I panicked. So that's why you came back. I came back because I needed to see if there's still something here worth saving. She looked at him. Or if I should just let my aunt sell it all and forget forever. And, decided. Hannah wiped her face and breathed deep. I decided I'm not selling. I decided I'll stay. I'll restore this place. Make it worth what my parents built. Even knowing you'll lose 50 million? Even knowing that. Why? Because money I can make other ways. But roots? Roots only come once, and I'm tired of living without roots. Matthew processed that. He wanted to believe, but doubt still gnawed inside. And my house? My land? Hannah walked to him, stopping inches away. Your house is yours. Your land is yours. I already told Dr. Michael to draw up the deed. Official. Documented. You'll never have to leave. Why? Why would you do that? Because it's right. Your grandfather worked this land his whole life. My grandfather gave his word it was yours. A man's word is worth more than paper. But that could make money. Good flat land close to the road. I don't care about money. She touched his face with one hand. Matthew, I didn't come here to take anything from you. I came to try to find something in me that I lost. And I ended up finding more than I expected. What? Someone who sees me for real. Not my last name, not my money. Just me. Matthew held her hand against his face. He wanted to believe so badly it hurt. How do I know that's true? You don't. Hannah rested her forehead against his. You have to trust. And I know it's hard after I lied. But Matthew, of everything I told you these days, only the name was a lie. The rest, all of it, was true. They stood there, foreheads touching, breathing the same air. So close to a kiss, so close to crossing that line. It was her cell phone that broke the moment. Hannah pulled away and looked at the screen. Dr. Michael again. I have to take it, she said softly. Take it, she answered. And Matthew heard the attorney's loud voice even without speakerphone. Hannah, your aunt filed for emergency. If you don't show up in Chicago in the next 5 days and sign the documents, you'll lose everything, not just the inheritance. Everything. Hannah looked at Matthew as she replied. I know, doctor. Then come back. Sign. We'll sort it and you can do whatever after. I'm not signing anything that includes selling the ranch. Hannah, be reasonable. 50 million. I don't want 50 million. I want this place. She hung up and stared at the phone in her hand, trembling. Matthew approached slowly. You're really going to lose it all? I am. She pocketed the phone. My aunt gets the condos, the investments, the money. I just keep the ranch. And only because my dad put in the will that the ranch can't be sold without my consent. And you think you can live off just the ranch? I'll have to. She looked around. I can plant, raise chickens, make something of it. There's good land here. Just needs work. A lot of work. I know. That's why, Hannah hesitated. That's why I understand if you don't want to help anymore. Not after all this. Matthew was silent for a long time, thinking, weighing, trying to separate the anger from what really mattered. I'll keep helping, he said finally. Why? Because neighbor helps neighbor, and because, he breathed deep, because I feel it too. What you're feeling, the thing that's growing, I feel it too. Hannah let out a wet laugh, half sob, half relief. So we're screwed, huh? Pretty screwed. They laughed together, eyes still wet, the weight of everything said still hanging in the air. Matthew, can I ask you something? Sure. Give me time. Time to prove I'm not lying. That this is real. That I want to stay. Not out of duty, but because this is where I want to be. How much time? As much as you need to trust me again. He looked into her green eyes and saw truth. Saw fear, too. Fear of losing. Fear of not being enough. Fears he knew well because he felt them too. Okay. But Hannah? Yes? If you leave without telling me, if you disappear again, I won't come after you. Got it? I won't wait. I won't disappear. She held his hand tight. This time I'll stay. And she said it with such certainty that she almost convinced him. Almost convinced herself. But they both knew there were still 5 days until the final deadline. 5 days for her to decide once and for all between millions or roots, between Chicago or that broken-down ranch, between the life expected of her or the life she was starting to build beside him, and neither was sure which choice she'd make when the time really came. The next 3 days were different. Matthew and Hannah worked side by side, but a new tension hung in the air. It wasn't bad. It was the tension of knowing something was about to happen and no longer pretending otherwise. They talked less, but touched more, hands brushing when reaching for the same tool, shoulders bumping passing through a door, looks lingering seconds longer than they should. Hannah had changed too, more determined, waking earlier, working later, as if she wanted to prove to herself she could do it, that this life was possible. On the third day, they were cleaning the old kitchen when they found a recipe notebook. The handwriting was delicate, feminine, her mother's. Hannah opened it carefully, the yellowed pages crumbling at the edges. Recipes for caramel sauce, cornbread cake, pecan brittle, all handwritten with notes in the margins. "My mom made these treats to sell at the market," Hannah said, tracing the words with her fingers. "It was her money. My dad wouldn't let her work outside, but she insisted on having her own. So she made sweets. She was stubborn like you." Hannah smiled. "She was. That's why my dad loved her. You know how to make these treats?" "Some. She taught me when I was little. But it's been years." Matthew closed the notebook carefully and handed it to her. "Keep this, it's important." She clutched the notebook to her chest, and Matthew saw tears forming again. "Matthew?" "Yeah? Thank you. For being here. For not leaving." He almost said he'd never leave. Almost pulled her close and kissed her the way he'd wanted to for days. But the sound of an engine interrupted them. A car was approaching. Not just any car. A black BMW, shiny, completely out of place on that dirt road. Hannah tensed immediately. "It's her," she whispered. "Who?" "My aunt." The car stopped in front of the house. Two people got out. A woman around 60, hair impeccably styled, expensive clothes, large sunglasses, and a man in a suit, briefcase in hand. Dr. Michael. Hannah went out to meet them. Matthew stayed on the veranda watching. "Hannah." The woman removed her sunglasses and looked her niece up and down with disapproval. "What is this? You look like a what, Aunt Valerie? A person who works?" Valerie ignored the question and looked around, disgust plain on her face. "This is worse than I imagined. No saving it. See now, you need to sell." "I'm not selling." "Hannah, be reasonable," Dr. Michael interjected, opening the briefcase. "Brought the documents. If you sign today, we can still avoid the lawsuit. You keep your share of the inheritance and everyone's happy." "I won't be happy signing away the ranch." Valerie stepped toward her niece, voice hardening. "You have 2 days, Hannah. 2 days to sign or lose everything. Everything. The condos, the money, the investments. You'll be left with this bankrupt ranch and nothing else. Then I'll take the bankrupt ranch." Valerie looked at Matthew for the first time, sizing him up head to toe with disdain. "I see. It's because of him, isn't it?" The aunt gave a humorless laugh. "Hannah, wake up. A man like that wants your money, not you." Matthew felt anger rising but held it. It wasn't his fight. Not yet. It was Hannah who exploded. "Shut up! Don't talk about him like that." Valerie raised an eyebrow. "Defending him now? Hannah, how long have you known this man? A week? 2? Long enough to know he's worth more than you and the whole family put together." The aunt turned red. "You're making the biggest mistake of your life. Throwing away $50 million for this?" She gestured to the ruined ranch. "For roots, Aunt. Something you never understood." "Roots?" Valerie laughed loudly. "Your mother died unhappy in this hole. Your father lost everything trying to keep this property. And you want to repeat their mistake?" "They didn't die unhappy," Hannah shouted. "They died doing what they loved, and I'd rather live like they did than die empty like you." The silence that fell was heavy as lead. Dr. Michael tried to calm things. "Hannah, let's think calmly. You can sell the ranch and buy a smaller one, easier to manage. Use the money to do things right. I don't want another ranch. I want this one." "But why? Why this one specifically?" Hannah looked at the house, then at Matthew, then back at her aunt. "Because this is where I belong." Valerie put her sunglasses back on, the final gesture. "Then stay. Stay in your pigsty with your ranch hand. But when you're starving, don't come crying to me." She returned to the car, Dr. Michael behind her. Before getting in, the attorney turned one last time. "Hannah, you have until Sunday. After that, no turning back." The car left, kicking up dust. Hannah stood still, watching the dust settle, her whole body shaking. Matthew came down from the veranda to her. "You okay?" She shook her head, but her voice was steady. "No, but I will be." The sky darkened quickly, heavy black clouds forming out of nowhere, the way it only happens in the heartland. Strong wind started blowing, kicking up leaves and branches. Storm's coming. Matthew looked at the sky. A bad one. You need to get back to the motel. I'm not leaving the house alone. Hannah, the house isn't safe. Roof has holes, windows are broken. You'll get soaked. Then I'll get soaked. I'm not abandoning it. The first drops started falling. Big, heavy, warm. Matthew made a quick decision. Then I'll stay too. They ran inside as the storm really broke. Violent rain, loud thunder, lightning cracking the sky. The noise was deafening. Water started coming in through the broken windows. Matthew grabbed old tarps left from the work and began covering the openings. Hannah helped, holding while he nailed them. The front door wouldn't close right. They had to hold it together, pushing against the wind that kept trying to force it open. They stood there, both holding the door, drenched, water coming in from everywhere. A particularly loud thunder made the house shake. Hannah flinched instinctively. Matthew pulled her close, shielding her with his body. "It's okay," he said near her ear. "Just noise." She turned in his arms, the two still holding the door, but now face to face. So close they could feel each other's breath even over the storm's roar. "Matthew," she said, her voice nearly lost in the rain. "What? Why'd you come back? What do you mean? After the fight, after finding out everything. Why'd you come back?" He looked into her green eyes, saw fear and hope mixed. "Because I'm a fool," he shouted over the storm. "What?" "A fool, stubborn, and in love." Hannah's eyes widened. "In love?" Matthew didn't answer with words. He pulled her by the waist with one hand, the other still on the door, and kissed her. It was a wet, desperate kiss, full of everything they'd been holding back for days. She responded with the same urgency, arms around his neck, body pressed to his. The door flew open with the wind, throwing them inside. They fell to the soaked floor without letting go, still kissing as if the world was ending outside. When they finally parted, breathless, Matthew rested his forehead on hers. "I'm in love with you," he said, softer now. "And I know it's crazy. I know you'll leave. I know it doesn't make sense, but I can't pretend anymore." Hannah held his face in both hands. "I'm not leaving." "How can you be sure?" "Because for the first time in my life, I found where I want to stay." She kissed him again, slower this time. "And who I want to stay with. Even knowing you'll lose everything?" "I'm not losing everything." She smiled, tears mixing with the rainwater on her face. "I'm gaining you." They lay there, embraced on the wet floor, as the storm raged outside. But inside them, finally, there was calm. When the rain passed hours later, the two were sitting on the veranda sharing an old blanket Matthew had found in a closet. The sky had cleared, full of stars. 2 days left, Hannah said softly. "I know. You think I'm doing the right thing? I think you're doing what's right for you. That's different. What if it goes wrong? If I can't make the ranch work? If we go hungry?" Matthew squeezed her hand. "We won't go hungry. I know how to farm. You know how to make treats. We'll manage." She rested her head on his shoulder. "Matthew?" "Yeah? I love you." They were the first true words of love anyone had ever said to him. Matthew felt his chest tighten, too full. "I love you too." And there, on that broken veranda, after a storm that nearly destroyed everything, the two knew they'd found something stronger than any tempest. All that was left was the final test. Sunday, the day of the definitive choice. Saturday dawned different. Hannah woke at the motel knowing she had just 1 day before the final deadline. 1 day to be absolutely sure she was making the right choice. 1 day before losing $50 million and being left with a broken ranch and a man she'd known for less than 2 weeks. When she arrived at Willow Creek Ranch, she had a surprise. Matthew wasn't alone. There were people, lots of them. Mrs. Julia, the motel owner, was cleaning the veranda windows. Joe from the general store was up on a ladder fixing a shingle. Old man Tony, a fellow nearly 80 Hannah didn't know, was weeding the yard. 3 or 4 more folks she'd never seen were working different parts of the property. "What?" she started, but her voice failed. Matthew approached, a shy smile on his face. "I told some folks in town. About you, about the ranch. They wanted to help. But why?" Old man Tony stopped weeding and came over, removing his straw hat. "Girl, I knew your parents. Worked this ranch for 20 years. Your dad gave me a job when no one else would. Paid for my boy's medicine when he was sick. Lent me money without interest when I needed it. Mrs. Julia joined them. Your mom taught me how to make treats, gave me the first recipes I used to start my motel. When she died, I swore I'd look after her daughter if she ever came back. Hannah felt tears starting to fall. I didn't know they'd helped so many people. They helped the whole town, dear. Old man Tony put his hat back on. When the harvest was bad, your grandfather opened the ranch store to everyone. Didn't let anyone go hungry. And your dad kept the tradition. Joe came down the ladder and wiped his hands on his pants. When word came they'd died, the whole town cried. And when we heard you'd vanished, we worried. Thought you'd never come back. Hannah looked around. All those people working for free out of memory, gratitude, love for the parents she'd barely had time to know properly. I don't deserve this, she whispered. You do. Matthew took her hand. You're their daughter, and you're coming back to care for what they loved. That means a lot. All day the community worked. Cleaned, repaired, painted what they could. It wasn't perfect, far from it, but it had life. It had soul. In the late afternoon, as everyone rested in the shade eating the food Mrs. Julia had brought, old man Tony called Hannah aside. Girl, I need to give you something. He pulled a yellowed old envelope from his pocket. Your dad gave me this a month before he died. Asked me to give it to you if you ever came back. Hannah took the envelope with trembling hands, opened it slowly. Inside was a letter, her father's handwriting. My daughter, if you're reading this, it's because I'm gone, and because you've come back. I always knew you would. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day the roots call us home. I know you ran because it hurt too much to lose us. I know the city seemed easier, safer, but daughter, safety isn't the same as home. You were made for this land. Your name is Willow, not by chance. Willow is a tree that withstands wind, drought, storm, but only if it has deep roots. Come back, plant your roots, and be happy the way your mom and I were. With simplicity, with work, with love for the land and the people. Money comes and goes, but roots stay. I love you. Your dad. Hannah folded the letter and held it close to her heart. She cried quietly, but this time they were tears of healing. Thank you, old man Tony. Thank you for keeping this. He nodded and went back to the group. Night was falling when the cars arrived. 3 cars this time. Valerie's BMW, plus 2 black sedans. 6 people got out. The aunt, Dr. Michael, 2 cousins of Hannah's she barely knew, and 2 more men in suits who looked like attorneys. The community stood instinctively, forming a kind of protective barrier around Hannah. Valerie looked around with contempt. How touching. The poor thing rounded up a cheering section. One cousin, Robert, laughed. Hannah, this is pathetic. Look at you, dirty, surrounded by people like this. Like what? Matthew stepped forward. Robert sized him up with disdain. People with nothing to lose. Unlike my cousin who's throwing away a fortune for this. This has a name, Hannah said, voice firm. It's called dignity, called choice, called freedom. Freedom to be poor? The other cousin, Monica, rolled her eyes. How romantic. Dr. Michael opened the briefcase. Hannah brought 2 sets of documents. In this one, you sign the sale and keep your share of the inheritance. In this other, you renounce everything except the ranch. Your choice. But you have to sign one, today. Why today? Deadline's tomorrow. Because tomorrow's Sunday and the courthouses are closed. If you don't sign today, the suit starts Monday anyway. Valerie crossed her arms. So? 50 million or this dump? Hannah looked at Matthew. He nodded, making clear the choice was hers alone. Looked at old man Tony, Mrs. Julia, Joe, all the people who'd worked the day for her parents' memory. Looked at the ranch. At the house still broken but now with color on the walls. At the veranda where she and Matthew had kissed during the storm. At the land where her dad had been happy. Give me the pen, she said. Knew you'd be sensible. Valerie smiled triumphantly. Hannah took the pen, but her hands went to the second set of documents. The renunciation. No, Robert stepped forward. Hannah, don't do this. Too late. She signed each page, methodical, determined. Doctor. Michael witnessed silently, a look of respect on his face. When she signed the last page, Hannah handed the documents back. Done. Now the ranch is officially mine, and only mine, and I'll never sell. Valerie turned red. You're a fool. Foolish and ungrateful. You wasted everything your parents built. My parents built this, Hannah gestured to the ranch. Not condos in Chicago, not bank accounts. This, land, roots, love. You'll regret it. Maybe. But at least I'll regret it living my life, not the one you want for me. Robert laughed bitterly. It's because of him, isn't it? He pointed at Matthew. Because of this deadbeat. You think he loves you? He just wants to use you. Matthew was about to respond, but Hannah was faster. She crossed the space and got right in her cousin's face. Shut up. Shut up right now. This man is worth more than you and everyone in this family combined. She was shouting, years of anger finally spilling out. He found me lost and saved me. Took me in without knowing who I was. Helped me without asking anything in return. And loved me for who I am, not what I have. The community applauded. Old man Tony yelled aloud, That's right! Valerie gathered the documents angrily. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. When you're starving, don't come crying. I won't starve. Hannah looked around at the people supporting her. I have a community. I have work. I have love. I have everything that matters. The cars left, kicking up dust for the last time. When silence returned, Hannah turned to the people who'd stayed. They all looked at her with respect and pride. Thank you, she said, voice choked. Thank you for everything, for remembering my parents, for accepting me, for helping me. Mrs. Julia hugged her. Welcome home, girl. One by one, they all hugged her. When it was Matthew's turn, he said nothing, just pulled her close and held tight. You sure? He whispered in her ear. Absolutely. Even knowing it'll be hard? Especially because of that. They stayed embraced as the sun finished setting. And for the first time since her parents died, Hannah felt she was exactly where she should be. In the right place, with the right people, living the right life. 3 months later, Willow Creek Ranch was unrecognizable. It wasn't luxurious, far from it. But it was alive. The main house had been renovated enough to be livable. Hannah lived there now. 2 bedrooms working, clean kitchen with a wood stove and electric one, fixed bathroom. The windows had new glass, the roof no longer leaked, the veranda was solid. In the yard, chickens scratched freely. A large garden produced vegetables that Hannah sold at the town market every Wednesday and Saturday. And in the kitchen, every Tuesday and Thursday, she made her mom's recipes. Caramel sauce, pecan brittle, cornbread cake. Mrs. Julia sold them at the motel, and quickly the treats from Willow Creek Ranch became known in the area. It didn't make you rich, but it let you live, and live well. Matthew was on the veranda fixing a rocking chair he'd found in the attic when Hannah arrived with a tray, peach juice and hot biscuits. Snack break, she announced, smiling. He set down the tool and took the glass, sipped and closed his eyes in satisfaction. Nobody makes peach juice like you. Grandma's secret. She laughed and sat on the step beside him. How's the chair coming? Almost done. 2 more screws and you'll be able to sit here every afternoon. Not for me. For us. Matthew looked at her. That look he'd developed in the last months. Pure affection. Unhidden. Us. He repeated the words slowly, savoring it. I like how that sounds. Me too. They sat in comfortable silence, drinking juice and watching the yard bustle. Daisy slept in the sun, belly up. The chickens clucked. The wind swayed the cornstalks in the garden. Hannah, Matthew said after a while, there's something I want to ask you. Ask away. He put away the tool, wiped his hands on his pants, and turned to her fully. Do you regret it? Choosing to stay? Giving up everything? Hannah thought before answering. Looked around at everything they'd built together in these months. No, not for a second. She took his hand. Matthew, I had 50 million, but I had no peace, no purpose, no love. Now I have all that. How could I regret it? What if it gets harder? Drought comes, pests hit the garden, things really tighten up? Then we'll face it together like always. Matthew breathed deep. It was now. Then marry me. Hannah blinked, processing what she'd just heard. What? Marry me. Official. Papers filed. Ring on the finger. All proper. Matthew, I know we've only been together 3 months. I know folks will say it's too fast. But Hannah, I'm 32, and I've never felt for anyone what I feel for you. He held her hand tight. You're my best friend, my work partner, the lady next door. He smiled. And the love of my life. Tears started down her face. I don't have a fancy ring to give you, just this. He pulled from his pocket a simple silver ring with a small green stone. It was my grandma's. My grandpa gave it to her when he proposed. Doesn't cost anything, but it's worth everything in story. Hannah took the ring carefully, like it was the most precious thing in the world. It's perfect. So you'll accept? She kissed him instead of answering with words. But when they parted, she said clearly, yes, 1,000 times yes. Matthew slipped the ring on her finger. It was a bit loose, but Hannah made a fist like she'd never take it off. When do we get married? She asked. Whenever you want. Next week? Matthew laughed. Next week? Don't want to wait? Big party? I've waited my whole life to feel like this. I don't want to wait more. And for the party, she looked around. We do something simple right here. Barbecue, country tunes, the whole community. The way my parents would. The right way. Our way. They married the following Saturday. Courthouse in the morning, just the necessary witnesses. Mrs. Julia and old man Tony. Party at the ranch in the afternoon. Matthew wore his only suit pants and a white shirt Joe lent him. Hannah wore a simple white dress she'd sewn herself with Mrs. Julia's help. No veil, no high heels. Flat sandals and wildflowers in her hair. The party was exactly as she wanted. Barbecue the town folks pitched in to make. Live music, 3 guitar pickers who played till sunrise. Dancing, laughter, stories of her parents that old man Tony told the younger ones. When the bride and groom danced the first song, awkward and happy, no one had dry eyes. The moon was high when most people left. Only the closest stayed, sitting around the bonfire in the yard. Old man Tony raised his mason jar of moonshine, a toast to the newlyweds, to the land, to the roots that grew back. Everyone repeated, to the roots. Hannah rested her head on Matthew's shoulder and whispered, thank you. For what? For showing me you can be happy with simplicity. For accepting me without my money. For loving me for who I am. He kissed her forehead. Thank you for staying. For choosing us. 4 months after the wedding, Hannah found out she was pregnant. She told Matthew on a Sunday morning, the two sitting in the rocking chair he'd fixed. Daisy at their feet, the sun rising, gilding everything gold. Matthew, I have news. Good or bad? Good. Really good. Tell me. Hannah took his hand and placed it on her belly. We're gonna have a baby. Matthew froze for a few seconds, then looked at her with shining eyes. For real? For real. About 3 months. He hugged her tight, laughing and crying at once. We're gonna be parents. We are. She was crying too. And our kid will grow up here. On this land, with deep roots. Like a willow. Like a willow. The months that followed were preparation. Matthew renovated the room for the baby. Hannah knitted clothes with Mrs. Julia's help. The whole community prepared too, each bringing a gift, advice, a story. When Hannah was in her 6th month of pregnancy, they were sitting on the veranda on a Saturday afternoon. She had her hand on her belly, feeling the baby kick. I think it'll be a girl, Matthew said. Why? Because she kicks hard like that. Stubborn like her mom. Hannah laughed. If it's a girl, I want to name her Rose. Rose Willow Harlan. And if a boy? Samuel. After your middle name. Matthew held her hand. Any name will be perfect. Because it'll be ours. The oak in the corner of the yard, which Matthew had planted years ago and never flowered, was full of yellow blooms. Hannah pointed. Look, your oak finally bloomed. Matthew looked at the tree, then at Hannah's belly, then her eyes. No coincidence. Flowers come when the soil's ready, when there's enough love, water, and care. Then we're ready. We always were. Just needed to believe. They sat there until the sun fully set. Matthew with his hand on Hannah's belly, feeling the baby move. Hannah with her head on his shoulder, listening to his steady heartbeat. Around them, Willow Creek Ranch breathed life. The garden produced, the chickens laid eggs, the treats came from the kitchen scenting the air. It wasn't perfect. The house still had visible patches. The roof needed more shingles. The back fence was still crooked. But it was theirs. Built with work, sweat, tears, and love. It was roots. It was home. It was everything. Hannah had traded $50 million for a simple ranch, a man with a true heart, and a life with purpose. To the world, she'd lost everything. But there, on that veranda, hand intertwined with his and a life growing inside her, Hannah knew she'd gained the only wealth that truly mattered. Matthew kissed her forehead softly. "I love you. I love you too." She looked around one last time, etching it in memory. "And I love all this we've built. We'll build much more." He pointed to the horizon. "All this will bloom, like the oak. Just needed time and the right care. And love. Mostly love." The wind blew gently, carrying the scent of oak flowers mixed with damp earth from the afternoon watering. Daisy snored softly in her sleep. In the sky, the first stars began to appear. And so, in the simplicity of that late afternoon, two hearts that had met in the middle of the woods kept beating together, building roots, planting future, proving that sometimes the greatest wealth in the world has no price. It has a name, has a story, has love. If this story of new beginnings and courage touched your heart, leave your like to help us reach more people who need to believe it's never too late to find your place in the world. In the comments, tell us, have you ever had to choose between what was expected and what your heart wanted? What was your choice? And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, hit that red button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our stories of love, overcoming, and second chances. Thanks for sticking around to the end. Until the next story.